Hello lovelies, I'm Christina and today I'm giving you my review of If It Bleeds by Stephen King. If It Bleeds came out on April 21st and it is a collection of 4 novellas. I don't have a physical copy yet. I did pre-order, but as always when I pre-order any book, pretty much, it ends up arriving a week or two after the release date, so I ended up listening to If It Bleeds on Audible, which was a wonderful experience and I highly recommend it if you do like audiobooks. I will add a link down below so you can go check out Audible, and if you want to you can do a 30-day free trial and you also get 2 free audiobooks with that trial, so you can really see what it's all about and see if it's something that you want to be a part of. I've been an Audible member for years and I use it whenever I'm on the go or if I'm cooking or doing my makeup. Really anything where I'm doing things sort of on autopilot, I don't have to focus as much on it, then I love having an audiobook on, and it just makes for a way to read more when there's not as much time to do so. Now let's get into the review of If It Bleeds. As you probably know if you've been around for a while, I'm a huge Stephen King fan and I always try to not be too biased whenever he releases a new book, even though it's quite hard because I love his writing style so much. But there's been quite a few of his more recent releases that I haven't loved as much as his earlier work or as my favorites of his. So I'm always a bit hesitant and a bit nervous when I get into a new Stephen King novel because I'm very excited about it and I want to love it so much, but I'm also scared that I won't. But I was very pleasantly surprised to see that If It Bleeds came out a little earlier than it was supposed to, and I think where Stephen King really just shows his talent is with short stories and novellas. I do love some of his more intricate big works as well, but I think that Stephen King is just a master when it comes to the works of short stories and novellas. He's just up there with the very best. So I do have my notes here from each story. I will try not to spoil anything, and if I say anything that is minor spoiling for the stories, then I'm sorry. I'm really gonna try not to. The first story is Mr. Harrigan's Phone. So this is a story where a young boy helps out an elderly man in their town who is very wealthy, and he is introduced to the very first iPhone. And there's also a scary twist here. Of course, it's Stephen King after all. But I'm going to read out my notes here. First off, I'm going to mention a couple of the Easter egg mentions that I noticed in it. They had mentions of Shawshank, Castle Rock was mentioned, of course. And there was this wonderful thing of the iPhone nostalgia, which isn't an Easter egg, but I really, really enjoyed that. And my notes here is that it's a perfect story coming to life from King's skepticism of smartphones and technology. He has talked about this several times in interviews, how he's very skeptical of all this new technology and how it's taking over our lives. And I think that Mr. Harrigan's Phone was a very interesting way of portraying that into a novella with kind of the horror aspects to it. So very well done there. A good pace, length, interesting to follow the character through the span of years, with and without Harrigan. Now I thought that Mr. Harrigan's Phone was a really interesting story and very character driven, as well as the mysterious aspect of it all, which I really liked. It's one that was it has a very nice pace to it, even though it's not the edge of your seat kind of story. It does have the horror elements that makes it really, really exciting, and you really want to know what the hell is going on. But it was just a really nice story that reminded me kind of the earlier horror short stories that Stephen King has released, and I ended up really loving that one. I gave that a 5 out of 5. The next one is The Life of Chuck, which is very different. It starts out with a sort of apocalyptic kind of thing where they talk about the internet is going to shut off, the world is coming to an end, and everywhere they go they see this billboard of Chuck, and it's thanking Chuck for 39 wonderful years, and they have no idea what this is all about. And then we get to see this story in 3 acts. It starts off with the end of the world, and then we go sort of back in time and we get to know Chuck. So this was very different but very interesting. Like, the end of the world aspect of it is horrifying to me. That's one of my biggest fears, to kind of know that the end is coming and waiting around for that and trying to make the best out of it. Like, that terrifies me. So that story was definitely off to a great start. And then the story kind of changed into something completely different. Not in a negative way, but not in the way that I expected it to, which was a really nice surprise. So I wrote, the knowing of what's to come and the ending being scary no matter what seemed like a reminder to not take life and the little things for granted, because you never really know when it will be over and you wouldn't want to either. It actually had me crying. It was quite an emotional ride. I thought it was beautiful, mysterious, and the way that he chose to tell the story in the 3 acts was a very interesting choice that I really enjoyed. So it was just a really different kind of story that I enjoyed so much, and I ended up giving that 5 out of 5 as well. Now the next one is If It Bleeds. When I first pre-ordered If It Bleeds, I didn't know that the story If It Bleeds was a prequel to The Outsider. That was a very pleasant surprise to me. I really did enjoy The Outsider, and Holly is just one of my favorite characters. We first got to meet her as kind of just a side character in the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, and then she had a bit of a bigger role in The Outsider, and then we have If It Bleeds, where she's pretty much the main character in that story, which I thought was amazing. She's just such a lovely character, and I love coming back to her and seeing how she copes with her life. Now, this story is one of a news reporter that seems to show up at several disaster stories, and it's so good. Easter egg here, he mentioned killer clowns. I also wrote down that there were a few Trump jabs in the story. I really enjoy that. I know some of you don't, but for me personally, that's a big plus. And we can discuss it in the comments, but be nice. If you're going to be nasty about it, I will delete the comments, as I've done under previous videos. But yeah, I just love the Finders Keepers adventures. I would recommend reading The Outsider before reading If It Bleeds, or it will be extremely confusing because they refer to the Outsider story so much, and I think you really need to know what happened in that story for If It Bleeds to actually make sense. So love that one. Perfect length, good pace. I end up giving that one 5 as well. Now the last one is Rat. Rat is the story of an aspiring writer. He has published, I think it was 6 short stories, but he's never been able to complete a full novel. So he gets a new idea for a book, and he wants to go out to his family's cabin to get a kickstart on writing this book. His wife and his friends are very hesitant to be supportive of this because something terrible happened when he tried to write his first novel, and he kind of lost his words through the process there, and it took a pretty big toll on him. But he decides to go anyways, and then there's a meeting with a rat, and some really mysterious, weird things happen here as well. I love when Stephen King writes about the process of being a writer, and especially the ones where you have writers who kind of struggle with their work. I don't know what it is about that, but because I write myself, I think I just feel like I can relate to not everything in that, but some of the struggle that the characters do feel when it comes to their creative process. Again, some jabs of Trump here, which I enjoyed. It has a sort of a grim fairy tale feeling to it, which I thought was great. And it just had the absolute perfect ending. That's all I'm going to say about that one. Gave that one 5 as well. So there's probably no surprise here when I end up saying here that I gave the entire collection in If It Bleeds a 5 out of 5. It's just a really solid, good collection of novellas, and they're all great in their own way. I highly, highly recommend you pick up If It Bleeds, but do read The Outsider first. Now let me know in the comments down below if you've read If It Bleeds, if you're going to, if you have any thoughts. As always, I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and hit that subscribe button and that bell button so you will get notified when I post a new video. And I hope you guys are all staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video soon. Goodbye!